Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio, so today we need to take a little bit of a look at a new Ace Spec. New Ace Specs are well exciting, ladies and gentlemen. We're not going to get very many of them. We're probably going to get 5 in our first English set. I'll go through the maths in a minute. This is number 4, so there is one more coming, one would imagine. But, you know, it's one per deck. You're probably only getting a few per set. These things are exciting. We've got a new one. It's technically Hero's Mantle, although the lovely Anton Boulay has informed me that generally these tend to get translated as Hero's Cape. So expect this to be called Hero's Cape in English. And what we've got is a tool that gives you an extra 100 HP. That's it. That's what it does. No ifs, no buts, no maybes, no mucking around here. Nice and simply, it gives you extra HP. And it is as simple as that. And the thing is, we don't get this normally. There's a catch most of the time. So, I mean, if you want to have an extra 100 HP at the moment, we've literally got Luxurious Cape. And it gives you an extra 100 HP, but it can only go onto a non-rule box Pokemon. Well, okay, no, tools can go on anyone. Special energy are actually limited to what you can attach to. Tools, you can always attach them any way you like, but they only work on, for instance here, non-rule box Pokemon, and you give up an extra prize. So look, if you put this side by side with Luxurious Cape, this is 1 billion times better than Luxurious Cape. Like, it's not even close. Luxurious Cape makes you give up an extra prize and can't be used on rule box Pokemon. This has neither of those in there. You know, Ancient Booster Energy Capsule also came out in Paradox Rift, the most recent set, but it gives you an extra 60, and and removes all special conditions, but it's only on Ancient Pokemon. So it's less, and it's only for Ancient Pokemon. Bravery Charm gives you an extra 50 HP. Well, that's half as much, and it only goes on basic Pokemon, whereas this can go on basic, evolved, any way you like. And if you compare this to similar tools, this is clearly brilliant. Again, we'll get to if anyone's going to play it in a minute, but I'm saying if you just look purely at this in comparison to similar kinds of cards, this is great. Like the last tool we had that just flat gave anyone extra HP was Big Charm back in the Sword and Shield base set, which not for nothing, it's like 16 sets ago. That was a long time ago. And that was just a flat plus 30. Like we got close with Rusted Shield in Shining Fates, which gave you plus 70 if you specifically was Zamazenta V. And only if you was Zamazenta V. If your Pokemon was literally anything other than Zamazenta V, didn't work. And that's kind of my point here. If you compare this to similar tools we've had in the past, you can understand why this is an Ace Spec. This is, compared to similar cards, absolutely flat out, phenomenal, brilliant. But you may notice I've been qualifying all of my statements up till now, because everything I've said is absolutely true. If you compare this to similar cards, it is a brilliant card, and there are going to be some people that look at this and go, why is that an Ace Spec? Well, the first bit of this video is my explanation. I am proving to you that this should be an Ace Spec, because if you compare this to other similar tools, it is a bazillion times better. What's the caveat? Yeah, mate, no one's going to play this. No one is going to play this card. And then this is when I'm talking about Prime Catcher, of course. When I showed you Prime Catcher the other day, I told you Prime Catcher was too good. And I told you that one of the problems with Prime Catcher is that it's an Ace Spec. And Ace Specs, it should be an Ace Spec. Goodness me, it could not, well. Okay, to be fair, it is actually Pokemon Catcher when it first came out, before it got errated. So we have played this, and one of my most successful formats ever was when we played this without any kind of downside, because the new Prime Catcher is literally that. But nowadays it's an Ace Spec, and Ace Specs are limited to one of any kind in your deck. And everyone's just going to play Prime Catcher. Like, when I played Pokemon Catcher back in the day, when it did what Prime Catcher does now, just straight gusting on an item, it was actually even worse. Because we had Junk Arm at the time, which let you recover it. And honestly, like, playing Pokemon back then, your opponent had gusting every turn. You played the game on the assumption that everybody could gust every turn. Prime Catcher isn't it, because it's one copy in your deck, and we don't have Junk Arm to recover it and all of that. But make no mistake about it, Prime Catcher is the best Ace Spec by a mile, and it's not even close. And honestly, this is why Prime Catcher makes me a bit grumpy. Because I know Prime Catcher is a great card. It's a phenomenal card, and everyone's going to play it. But it kind of ruined Ace Specs. Because I look at this card and I'm like, plus 100 HP on a tool. It's not a game-breaking card. It is phenomenal compared to similar cards, no question there. And it kind of reminds me of Doctor Strange, which makes me really happy. But it's not a game-breaking card like that. But there is an opportunity here, because this is a cool card and some decks would want to use it. But 99.9% of Pokemon players are going to look at this and go, mate, it's not as good as Prime Catcher. And it's not. Like, that's my conclusion about this card. My conclusion about this card is it's not as good as Prime Catcher. Now, maybe if there are decks out there that generally don't tend to play gusting, and there are some decks out there that generally don't, you could use something like this. But even in decks that generally don't play gusting, having a 1-of automatic gusting as an item card still sounds like a very good deal. And this is what annoys me about Ace Specs. They gave us an Ace Spec in the first set, which is so good that it basically ruins all the other Ace Specs. Like, if you go back to when Ace Specs were here originally, we did have a super obvious best Ace Spec. It was Computer Search. Computer Search was the best Ace Spec. It was discard 2 cards from your hand, search for any card. And that was by far the best Ace Spec. But it wasn't the only one that saw play. Now, Dowsing Machine wasn't as good. It was a similar kind of thing. It was discard 2 cards from your hand and get a trainer card back from your discard pile. But there were absolutely some decks that didn't necessarily need the early game ramping, but needed resources in the mid to late game that would play Dowsing Machine. Scramble Switch actually saw a little bit of play here or there. It let you switch into the active and move all your energy over. And it was one of those, if you had a couple good games in testing, you played it, it was never as good as it seemed. But then we had stuff like G-Booster, which was specifically only for Genesect. But for Genesect, it did 200 damage, which at the time was absurd. And it was phenomenal, and we could recover it, and decks would use it. So we had a clear best, which was Computer Search. But there were at least others around that were seeing play in some decks. Right now, we've seen 4, and there's nothing, frankly. Like, we've got Prime Catcher, which, as I mentioned, and we've also got ourselves a new energy card. Neo Superior Energy, you can attach it to, well, it really works on stage 2s, and it gives 2 of any energy. You don't have to be behind on prizes, and it does work on EXs, but it's only on stage 2s. And it's fine, but it's not going to be as good. Now, I told you there were 5 Ace Specs we should be expecting in our English set, and essentially we've got 3 from the double set, Cyber, Judge, and Wild Force. We got Prime Catcher, Neo Superior Energy, and then Hero's Cape. They're the 3 we've got so far, but obviously it's a double set, and we've seen this before, and that is that they're going to even it up. They are not going to give us 2 Ace Specs in one of the sets and 1 in the other. That's just not what Pokemon do, so we can assume there's going to be 2 in each. And remember I told you that we've got those new Koraidon and Miraidon decks coming out in Japan, which I am absolutely certain are going to be in our next set. It's not confirmed or official or anything like that, but I'm calling it and I feel really confident. Well, both of those have Master Ball in, and I told you this at the time, but Master Ball is literally just a straight reprint of when Master Ball was an Ace Spec last time. It just lets you search for any Pokemon with no downside. And for what it's worth, Master Ball saw almost no play last time. And yes, I know it did pop up in a few decks here and there, but not really, not significantly. So this is just another one of those where if Prime Catcher didn't exist, Hero's Cape could see a bit of play. But Prime Catcher does exist, and there's plenty of decks I'd love to have a tool that gave me an extra 100 HP. And if I was allowed to play one of these and Prime Catcher, I'd put it in basically every deck. It would be an impactful card. But compared to Prime Catcher, nah, mate. And this is going to be the discussion we have a lot, basically every time a new Ace Spec comes out. It's going to be, what is it? Why does it deserve to be an Ace Spec? But then very quickly, does it stand up against Prime Catcher? The answer for this one, I'm afraid, is almost certainly not. Sorry. And yes, I'm sure there will be a few decks here and there that play it, maybe some control decks really needed extra HP, etc. But I'm saying they are going to be very much in the minority. Right, that's what you need to know, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about this. Tell me if you think it stands up to Prime Catcher. Tell me anything you want to tell me in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel, like the lovely Jeanette Hicks, who's been a supporter of ours for a little while now and seems to be a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.